Here's Brody Brazil.
When I say I'm having second thoughts about Shohei Ohtani, it's not necessarily a change of position or opinion. I'm literally just thinking about this over and over again. What could have happened? How this could have played out? It kind of seems like there's two main possibilities, but there's so many different subsets of each of those different avenues. Really hard to grasp what exactly is going on here. And there's only been one main development. It actually comes to us from Major League Baseball. They have officially opened the investigation into Shohei Ohtani. From ESPN.com here, Major League Baseball has opened a formal investigation into the matters surrounding Los Angeles Dodgers superstar Shohei Ohtani and his former interpreter, Ippei Mizuhara, the league announced Friday. It says MLB is expecting to request interviews with all parties, including Ohtani and Mizuhara, a source told ESPN, although officials will have no way to compel Mizuhara's cooperation since he no longer works for baseball. Ohtani also has the right to refuse cooperation as a member of the MLB Players Association. Ohtani could also invoke his right under an interpretation of arbitration precedent to refuse cooperation because of a criminal investigation that's already underway. Traditionally, MLB has argued a player can invoke such an exception if he is a target of the investigation, which Ohtani is not believed to be. That's regarding the federal investigation that's going on about the betting organization. So a couple different things here I'm having deeper thoughts on and better realizations. Number one, this should be obvious by now. The longer this lingers, really the worse for everybody. Shohei, Ippei, the Dodgers, Major League Baseball, fans, media, literally all of us. Sometimes keeping quiet, laying low, and buying some time. Sometimes that will actually help a situation. It calms things down. It brings everybody back to level. Little bit of a reset here. Silence and time are not going to help this at all. In fact, it's going to do quite the opposite. Curiosity, rumors, drama, inconvenience, distraction. How about endorsements that Ohtani might lose in the interim because of all this? Now, granted, it's his situation. That doesn't affect neither you nor I. But to the point, the longer this lingers, the worse for everybody involved. Why not try and get ahead of this a little bit? And I understand there's a lot on the line. It's a very legal issue. Lawyers are involved. Multi-billion-dollar companies are involved. Ohtani's contract has been a huge investment. I totally understand that. But at some point, this should, for everybody involved, come to a conclusion or some reasonable conclusion sooner than later. There's also the thought that Ohtani is human, and none of us are perfect. It was once uttered to me by a Major League Baseball player who is from my region, a local guy, who said, "Don't meet your heroes." And what he meant by that is, sometimes you have a projection of who somebody is because of watching them play and their persona and the image and the character that they essentially are made to be because of who they are on a field. And then you meet them and you're let down or you're disappointed, or sometimes you're absolutely blown away by, this is not what I was expecting, in a bad way. Now, I'm not suggesting that at all here about Shohei Ohtani. In fact, what I really want to say is to assume anything here, good guy, bad guy, into gambling, into anything else, to assume anything is the absolute worst. He quite honestly keeps a relatively low profile. All things considered, what his job is, how he's known, what he means to the baseball world, the big contract he just signed, relatively speaking, he maintains a low profile. But the truth is that we don't know most athletes personally at all. I mean, you think you know them, right? You think you have an image of, oh, that must be a really good person based on their appearance, their demeanor, their quotes here and there. Sometimes it's just simple as body language or what they do on a field. You'll love them and you don't even care who they are. But the truth is that we don't actually know athletes personally. Most of us don't know most of them personally. So again, to assume anything either way is the absolute worst. But there is something to be said about not really wanting to meet your heroes sometimes because it's a can of worms that you may not have expected. If Shohei, on kind of the flip side here, if he is 100% innocent to the accusations at hand, sports wagering, whether it was on baseball, his own games, or just other sports, whatever it is, he was still way too close, even if innocent, way too close to something, and I'll say bad, maybe risky is a better word. When you're in his position, in his line of work, in his high-profile situation, you have to protect yourself to greater standards, right? Because you have so much to lose compared to everybody else, and it can go away like that. It's amazing that all of us take personal responsibility and accountability for like our own money or our actions. Like that's always on the table for the average human being, the average adult human being. You got robbed of some money or some money was disappearing and you didn't really know about it. Now, I don't know if you're somebody who does the finances for yourself or in your family. I can't speak for everybody, but I would tell you that if significant chunks of your money were disappearing and going somewhere and you had no clue about it all of a sudden, that's kind of hard to buy. Or if you were the one behind it and said, you know what, I'm going to pay off my buddy's debt, but you didn't even stop to think about how this would look. It's just, again, you have to protect yourself to much greater standards than the average human being when you are somebody like Shohei Ohtani. And really, is it being a little oblivious to people that just took advantage of you like that, if in fact that's what happened? Are you that oblivious to people that they could do whatever they want? And I understand there might have been some things that were missed in translation intentionally. That's been widely speculated on social media, is that Ippei was doing all of this in front of Ohtani, but Ohtani couldn't understand it due to the language barrier, although Shohei's been around for a while and you'd still have to, again, think that he could figure out answers if he thought anything was out of line or out of place. Anyway, again, even if Ohtani is 100% innocent to all this, standing way too close to the fire, my friend. So MLB is going to investigate this. It's kind of hard to trust an MLB investigation into these matters because of the obvious, right? What a conflict of interest this is. Baseball investigating itself, not necessarily itself, but one of its own, and maybe its biggest superstar, certainly its highest paid player, one of the faces of its business. Do you want to shut him down, shut him out? You want to ban him from baseball if you really find out something that you don't want to find out? How about you find out some things, but you release only a few of those things, not the entire story? You see what I'm saying here? It is a conflict of interest to have somebody investigate themselves. And even if baseball hired a third party, which I don't understand to be the case here, it sounds like baseball has their own department of investigations, but even if it was a third party, baseball is still the customer to this investigation. They're paying for this to happen. They'll be handed the results. They will disseminate that information. And I don't know that I could ever fully say, yep, I 100% trust everything that's there and I believe it's all there in front of me. I think the federal investigation that's going on, separate from Ohtani, right, into the betting organization, I feel like that federal investigation might reveal so much more than baseball could ever find out. This is what the feds do, right? And they have much more resources and they have no conflict of interest necessarily. So, I mean, this baseball investigation, what do you really expect is going to come out of that? And last but certainly not least, let's remember what we are investigating here. Sports betting, which is perfectly legal for so many of you watching this video. Depending on what state you live in or what country you live in around the world, this may be all laughable to you because it's entirely legal. Now, a player betting on their own games, throwing a game, which, by the way, I've seen that I've seen that theory floated around already on social media. People are pointing out some of Ohtani's train wreck outings and saying, well, maybe a bet was made before that one and he threw the game. I maintain to this point and to this day that throwing games is near impossible in modern times because people are going to notice. When you're that good, for somebody like Ohtani, something just didn't add up right there. And it might be one thing to have one bad performance. Again, he's human on and off the field. But to think that somebody could repeat this over and over, it does not seem doable here in 2024. But let's talk about this betting problem. Because sports here in this day and age is so intertwined with wagering. And not just fantasy teams, but wagering on prop bets, game results. Somebody racked up a $4.5 million debt. Whether that's Shohei Ohtani or whether that's his interpreter Ippei, it doesn't really matter. Somebody did it. Somebody's got a problem. Somebody needs help here. And this is just the example of the entire situation is an example of the bigger problem. That's the way I should phrase it here. This should also be on our radar as much as Ohtani and what do we do and what did he do and how does this get resolved? How about the bigger problem at hand here? And there's a lot of people who don't have Shohei Ohtani money or even whatever Ippei was making. I'm sure he was paid handsomely to do his job. And they're wagering on sports because of a competitive spirit they have inside them, because of an addictive nature of sports betting, because it's so easy to access these days. All you need is your phone. You're right in anytime you want to be there. And it's possible those are the things that if Ohtani was in on this, those things could be feeding him, of course. But they could feed the average person who might be addicted to sports betting as well, too. So I didn't really mean to take sides here at all and make you think that Ohtani is responsible for something, wasn't responsible for anything. I don't want to blame Ippei either at this point. Again, there seem to be two major schools of thought here. Ohtani was doing it, and Ippei is kind of the fall person for it, or Ippei was doing it, and Ohtani did or didn't know to some degree, but it's not his fault. He didn't do any of this. He's just guilt by association. It doesn't matter. Honestly, in the end, it could be some combination of both. But this is definitely a headline. This is something that all parties should want to get ahead of, try and come to a conclusion, the right conclusion on this sooner than later, get it right, no doubt. But I don't know that this story and it going on and it continuing, I don't know that it's good literally for anybody. You made it here to the end of the video. You know I appreciate that. Thumbs up down below. And by the way, if you're just coming across me and this channel for the very first time, I appreciate it. I'm glad you found me. I do a bunch of videos here. So do me another favor. Make sure you go down and hit that subscribe button right now before you leave, before I end this, so I can definitely see you back here next time.